Hey guys, what's up? This is Pansar Dragon, and today we'll be doing the top 5 best champions for every role in solo queue for patch 5.21. Now, since this is going to be the first tier list that I do for all lanes in the new season, there's just going to be some minor changes to some lanes, as if you're a strong champion in Season 4, you're going to be a really strong champion in Season 5, despite the new jungle. And I've already done a jungle tier list for patch 4.20, but basically, I'll be doing the 5 top champions for patch 4.21 since some champions have been nerfed. And so, with all that being said, let's get started. So previously in the top lane tier list, it was Rumble at number 1, Aurelia at number 2, Nidalee at number 3, Gnar at number 4, and Riven at number 5. But as time travels on and discovers new picks, it goes something like Aurelia at number 1, Rumble at number 2, Gnar at number 3, Lissandra at number 4, and Sion at number 5. So the reason I placed Sion at number 5 is because he's actually a pretty good tank, and he does pretty well in the top lane, but I think the biggest thing about him, what makes him really good in the top lane, is he can instantly hit level 2 by doing that trick where he gets really low from the enemy tower and then goes to one of his camps and kills it in his passive, and then right after he dies he can instantly teleport to top lane and not lose any CS, and also having a level advantage over the enemy. Other than that, he makes a really good tank slash split pusher with his ultimate, and of course initiating with his ultimate onto other lanes or just a team fight and popping up people to set him up for some kind of damage from his teammates. The only thing I don't like about Sion is how easily it is to outplay him, because all of his skills do take time to wind up, or you can see it coming, like his Q and R. They are easily outplayable with things like flashes and escapes. But other than that, I do think he's a decent top laner in the current meta. And next up we'll be talking about Lissandra at number 4. So Lissandra has been recently picked in the competitive scene, but she has also been picked up from solo queue, and she was just really good because she was an initiation top laner while also being AP and also being really tanky, because she kind of had 2 Zhonya's with her ultimate plus having Zhonya's. And her burst damage is actually pretty good since all of her spells do damage. And in lane she can poke the enemy with her Q, or if she has to play safe, then she can farm from a distance with her Q or just auto attack. And when she does teleport to the bot lane for say a gank, she can easily lock down someone and burst that enemy with her teammates and take them down before anyone can react. And what's really good about her is that her Q is on a 3-second cooldown, and that's actually really good sustained damage and CC. The only thing that is kind of bad about Lissandra is that her range is really short, and she's not even that really mid-range like Orianna. It's just kind of short range, but at least she does have her Q to extend the range when it does hit a minion, so she can wave clear if the enemies are sieging onto her. Other than that, she's basically the new Ryze for top lane, although just a bit less tankier and doesn't scale as well as Ryze into the late game. But at least she does have a better early game and mid game. Next up is Gnar at number 3. So yeah, Gnar's just really strong right now, as he does have 2 forms, which is melee and ranged, and basically you can harass the opponent in your range form, and if you do go into your big form, they can't really trade with you since you just have better base stats. Out of lane, you kind of have pretty good teleport ganks if you go into big Gnar form and you CC someone and push them into the wall and just do your chain CC combo. Or if you are mini Gnar, then of course you can chase people with your Q constantly since it's on a pretty low cooldown. Either way, his base damage combined with his CC is pretty darn good. Next up is Rumble, and he's actually really annoying, I find, when facing against. So I always ban him in champ select. The reason I find him so really damn annoying is because once he gets that Liandry's and comes into team fights with his ultimate and all of his other damage, he just feels like he does a lot of things in team fights, as his ultimate can zone a lot of people, or if they're immobile people like Xerath or Syndra who don't have any escapes to get out of his ultimate, then they're kind of going to take a lot of damage from his ultimate and whatever else he can pack. Along with that, his base damage is pretty good, and with his scrap shield, he does make a very tanky bruiser AP kind of guy. He also can build Zhonya's along with his Liandry's and Rylai's to give him a lot of health while having a lot of resistance. The only thing that's bad about Rumble is that he doesn't really do good against people with a lot of mobility in teamfights like Lucian, or just in general people who can get out of his ultimate easily. But his ultimate can also be a really good counter initiation if the enemy wants to try and dive onto your whole team. Next up, we'll be talking about Aurelia and why does she deserve the number 1 spot. I just feel like she's like the only champ who hasn't been nerfed besides Maokai, Alistair, and Nidalee. And like during that stage on patch 4.13, she was still up there in the top 5. And she was just a really good bruiser. So combined with her true damage and Triforce and all of that stuff, she is going to be really up there. And a lot of people find that banning her is worthy. Next up, we'll be doing the AD carry tier list, and the previous tier list went something like Corki at number 1, Lucian at number 2, Ezreal at number 3, Vayne at number 4, and Jinx at number 5. But with some time going up and opinions changing, the tier list goes something like Corki at number 1, Graves at number 2, Lucian at number 3, Ezreal at number 4, and Jinx at number 5. So let's go and start talking about Jinx. The reason I do feel like Jinx is better than Vayne is because, Jinx is kind of more reliable, while Vayne is a risky pick to pick, as she does need one of the better laning phases to do well, or otherwise she kind of is like meh and needs to farm up before she can hit her spike. I mean, don't get me wrong, she's a good champion and all, but I do feel like Jinx is more consistent and can play a bit more safe with her flame jumpers and like long range with her Q, and of course having her global ultimate to pick people off. When she gets to the late game, her auto attacks become super strong as they are AoE, do a bit more damage since it is rockets, and she is long range. The only problem with Jinx is that she has one of the weaker laning phases, so if she does get kind of dumpstered in lane, she's kind of gonna have to farm up until she hits her power spike. Other than that, I do feel like she does deserve to be in the top 5. Next up, we'll be talking about Ezreal. So what's good about Ezreal? He's had some minor buffs to him recently. He does make great use of Triforce, and he's pretty versatile in his build, as he can go the mana build where he gets the Frost Glove if the enemy has a bunch of AD on their team, or he can just go the Triforce build, whichever is fine with him. And also just being really slippery helps for him too, as it's kind of hard to catch him and he's really kiteable and has poke, so he does make a great AD carry in that sense. I guess you can say that his only problem is his lack of damage and kind of going the Infinity Edge route. But other than that, he's a pretty good AD carry. Next up, we'll be talking about Lucian a bit. So I do feel like he does drop a bit down since he has been hit with some nerfs. But they were only a hit to his laning phase. And he still does have that mid-game power spike, so that's really good. He does fall a bit lesser in the late game than other AD carries, but he's still pretty decent in the late game since he does have a lot of damage with him. Next up, we'll be talking a bit about Graves. And so again, like Ezreal, he's the only one who has been recently buffed and not nerfed like other champions. And when I say other champions, I'm talking about like Kog'Maw, Tristana, and Lucian. He's like the only one who has received a buff to his ultimate and somewhat Q. And overall, he's like the tankiest AD carry because of his passive, so that's pretty good too. The only flaw he kind of has is, kind of being short range, but that's okay. As in solo queue, there's a lot of team fights, so he doesn't really need to poke. All he has to really do is wombo combo with his Q and R and auto attacks. And still at number 1 is Corki. So again, the only thing he has been nerfed with is his Q missile speed. That's for like kind of juking in the laning phase. So his early game laning phase has been nerfed a bit, but other than that, he's probably the strongest AD carry right now since he makes good use of Triforce, and unlike Kog'Maw, Lucian, and Tristana, he hasn't been nerfed, and he was, one of the best AD carries at Worlds, so he definitely deserves to be number 1 since no nerfs. And finally, we'll be doing the jungle tier list, and previously in the jungle tier list, it was Warwick at number 1, Fiddlesticks at number 2, Pantheon at number 3, Kayle at number 4, and Nunu at number 5. But with some recent nerfs to Warwick, Fiddlesticks, Pantheon, and Devour being nerfed, and Trailblazer being nerfed, and a bunch of changes, and of course my opinion's changing, the tier list goes something like Fiddlesticks at number 1, Pantheon at number 2, Jarvan at number 3, Nunu at number 4, and Rek'Sai at number 5. So I guess you're gonna wondering, is Rek'Sai actually a good jungler right now? And the answer is yes. He has really good clears with his Q being AoE, he has pretty good sustain with his passive, and he has a lot of mobility with his tunnels being everywhere, which means he can gank faster, clear faster, and basically do everything faster. And his ultimate provides him a free teleport around the map every 150 seconds or every 80 seconds depending on what level you are, so it makes a really good, split pusher or even ganker. And of course he does make really good use of Stalker's Blade right now, so with all this being said, I do feel like he does deserve to be number 5 if not higher. And at number 4 we do have Nunu. So again, Nunu has that high sustain and is really good at counter jungling. And when you counter jungle someone, you set them back pretty far since the respawn timers on the creeps are really long. So denying them that Wraith camp for a while, or even taking 2 camps, is going to be very vital, and it's going to hit the other jungler since they'll be losing a lot of XP and gold. He also becomes a really decent tank mid game, and he can give your AD carry buffs, which makes him a super AD carry. And of course he does have that monster objective control with his Q and smite. His ganks are also good since his Ice Blast does last for like 3 or 4 seconds with the slow, so he can easily lock down someone as long as they don't have any escapes. Up next we do have Jarvan, and Jarvan being in the old jungle, he was really good. In fact, I'd rate him at number 1 in season 4, along with the OP Rammus, but he got nerfed recently, so he's not really the best jungler right now. But yes, since Jarvan is a really good jungler in season 4, he should be also a really good jungler in season 5. The only problem with Jarvan is he doesn't have any innate sustain. The only thing he has is his armor from his E and the shield coming from his W. But then again, you do have the Trailblazer to sustain yourself, so that's all good. Other than that, he does offer really good utility with his EQ combo, having that ultimate to lock down people, and just being really tanky and can pick people off easily. So in my opinion, he does deserve to be in the top 5 as number 3. And at number 2 is going to be Pantheon. His attack speed has been nerfed, so he can't do any more of those early dragons. And of course the dragon has been buffed, and so he can't use his passive to block it. But it doesn't really matter that his attack speed got nerfed a bit, because he's basically like an AD caster. He only uses his Q and E for damaging the enemies. And the only time he's really attacking with his auto attacks is dueling somebody or just clearing camps. It kind of hurts his farming speed a bit, but that's okay. He still has his Q to farm the jungle with. And with the armor penetration added onto the new Elder Lizard, which is Warrior, it really helps him a lot since he will just go Brutalizer. And Pantheon does scale really good with armor penetration since he does have really good base damage and his AD ratios are really high. He does kind of scale out of it when he gets into the mid game and late game, and players can see when he's coming down and can explode him and burst him before he does anything. But other than that, his early game to mid game power spike is really good. And at number 1 is Fiddlesticks. So the nerfs to Warwick, obviously his ultimate and Skirmisher's Saber not being, well, good anymore, and Devour getting nerfed slightly, just doesn't make Warwick seem like a viable champion at the moment. And Fiddlesticks, the only thing he got nerfed was his passive, which isn't a big deal, and the silence from his E, doing it more than once on the enemy. And it's just a silence. I mean, it kind of sucks if you get double silence, but it's a rare case. Well, not really, it comes every 50% of the time. So yeah, it's kind of a slight nerf, but other than that, he still has his ultimate and Drain, which is really OP. The sustain and his ganks are really good, so I do feel like he deserves the number 1 spot. Next up, we'll be doing the mid tier list, and the mid tier list previously went something like Syndra at number 1, Jace at number 2, Zed at number 3, Fizz at number 4, and Ahri at number 5. Now turning into more carry champs and snowbally champs, I feel the tier list goes something like Akali at number 1, Katarina at number 2, Syndra at number 3, Fizz at number 4, and Ahri at number 5. So the removal of Jace and Zed in this tier list is kind of impactful, but the thing is, I just don't feel like AD mids are really that strong right now, as you already have the AD carry doing physical damage, so why do you need more physical damage? And I don't know about you, but Zed is kind of, easy to counter. You get QSS, which is easily purchasable now, or you get Zhonya's. And because of that, he does fall off late game, so his only power spike is going to be the mid game. While Jace kinda got a nerf, and I don't know if people were abusing it, but I guess for the people who were abusing the W thing, it might have hit his win rate a bit. But yeah, for Ahri, she's really good at assassinating people who are alone. If that charm does land, the enemy is basically dead. And she's just really good at picking people off while being safe with her ultimate, since it does have 3 gap closers or escapes depending on how you use it, so she's a pretty good pick. And at number 4 we do have Fizz. So Fizz is an assassin, can one-shot people once he gets like a bunch of AP items plus Lich Bane. And he's just kind of jukey with his E, as he can dodge multiple spells while having semi-invulnerabilities. And since he's really good at picking people off with his burst damage and CC and, gap closers, he's going to be a strong pick for solo queue. And at number 3 is Syndra. So what's the best thing about her? Well, basically she just looks at you and then kills you. And also she has a long range stun to pick off people. Next up at number 2 is Katarina. So why is she here? It's probably because her team fight presence is so goddamn good. Like if Katarina gets one reset in a team fight, the team fight is one for her team. And also, if she builds Zhonya, she's going to be really hard to lock down or even burst down since she can just dodge all the abilities coming at her. Being tanky and having reset potential is really good for team fights, so that's why she's up there. Just trust me, if Katarina is on the other team, you look out for her because you know if she gets that one reset or gets a really good ultimate, she's going to win the team fight. And at number 1 is going to be Akali. Now, from my experience, everyone seems to ban her for some reason. And the one time I didn't ban her and she was on another team, she kind of just roamed and got a bunch of kills and started snowballing, and we couldn't do anything about it because she could lifesteal, spell vamp, and had Zhonyas, so we had no damage to kill her. And even if she kind of has a hard lane, she can always build against them, since she does have pretty good base damage with her 3 Rs and Q. The only problem with Akali is that if she gets camped or dies really early in the game, her usefulness doesn't really come out well unless she can get some roams in, because if teamfights do come around, she can't really go in as she'll probably get exploded and bursted down, or something like that. Either way, an Akali player who knows how to play her and knows how to roam with her can snowball the game easily if she does get that one kill. Up next, we'll be talking about the support tier list. So in the previous tier list, it went something like Janna at number 1, Thresh at number 2, Blitzcrank at number 3, Sona at number 4, and Nami at number 5. And well, with Nami not being played as much as was before, it kinda goes something like Leona at number 5 and the rest are the same. So the explanation I'll give for Leona is that, she is a playmaker, can roam better than Nami, and she's probably more useful in team fights. And that's basically it. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll see you next time.